We've completed 16 of the 36 NASCAR Cup races this season. Let's take a look at what drivers are having impressive seasons so far, and let's take a look at what drivers are still trying to find their rhythm. Hello everybody, welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host Alex Lambert. I hope everybody enjoyed their Father's Day yesterday and the NASCAR off week, the only NASCAR off week of this season. But that gives us some time before we head into Nashville to kind of debrief and take a look at how every race car driver is doing so far this season. There's been a couple of big names that are making some comebacks. There's been a couple of big names that are not having impressive seasons, that are really struggling right now, still trying to find that rhythm. Let's take a look at what has happened so far in the first 16 races with 10 races to go until the playoffs begin. So let's go ahead, let's take a look at the playoff grid, the entire playoff grid, and if you had to pick a Final Four right now, an early Final Four, really early Final Four, you have to go with the drivers, the four drivers with multiple wins so far this season. You have William Byron with 3 wins on the year, coming in clutch with those 3 wins. All 3 of his wins have been on overtime restarts this season. You go back to Phoenix, you go back to Las Vegas, and you go to Darlington this year, where he's been in high-pressure situations. William Byron can get it done, and he's been fast at all racetracks we go to. He's a contender for the win week in and week out. So William Byron, definitely one of those championship favorites. You have Kyle Busch, also with 3 wins. You go back to Fontana, California earlier this year, the second race of the season where Kyle Busch got his first win with RCR this year on a comeback tear, on his comeback season. That was an impressive win. Was able to stay in there in Talladega, get his second win of the season, his first win at Talladega since 2008. And then, of course, the most impressive win was in St. Louis, Missouri, when Kyle Busch held off Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin on multiple restarts to go ahead and win his third race of the season. And Kyle Busch finishing second last week at Sonoma as well is definitely showing that he's a championship contender at the current moment. Kyle Busch really showing some speed right now. Now, there's a couple of guys, I think Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Larson, they each have 2 wins, but those are some drivers that I think maybe gave away a couple of wins, especially Martin Truex Jr. With Martin Truex Jr., he has 2 wins. Obviously, go back to Dover and go back to Sonoma last week. But Martin Truex Jr., Darlington was super fast. Definitely had a shot to win at Darlington. Could not get it done. Go back to Richmond. Bad strategy call. Got left out on old tires. Wasn't able to get the win, but in contention. If I look at Martin Truex Jr., he might be the only driver that I would say could have 4 wins, or maybe even you could add Kyle Larson in there. You look at Kyle Larson's season, definitely had some close ones as well. You go back to the Daytona 500 when he was wrecked on the final lap. You go back to Kansas when he was leading on the final lap and got into it with Denny Hamlin, lost that race, and also Kyle Larson did win the All-Star race, which kind of would count as his 3rd win, just not towards the playoff bubble. So Kyle Larson right now showing a ton of speed as well. He's made some mistakes on the driver's side as well, though. There have been a couple of instances, like I go back to the 600, where he's up front, has a shot to win, and just kind of spins out on his own. Definitely got to eliminate those mistakes. I've heard some, he doesn't know what the radio codes mean. Those are mistakes that definitely need to be limited by Kyle Larson himself to try to help advance him to win his 2nd NASCAR championship. But right now, those 4 at the top of the playoff grid are the big 4 right now. They all have multiple wins. They are currently your championship favorites. We got a couple of drivers with 1 wins that are having great seasons. We have Ryan Blaney, been really fast all year. He's usually in the top 5, top 10 week in, week out. Was able to win a big race at the Coca-Cola 600 earlier this year. In Charlotte, you have Christopher Bell, was able to win on dirt. You have Denny Hamlin, who's been definitely running way better this season than he did at the end of last year, was able to get a good win at Kansas this year, has been in contention for a few other wins, had a rough week last week at Sonoma, but Denny Hamlin right now on the verge, right there before he can step up and turn this into a multiple win season. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see Denny Hamlin get his 50th win and his 2nd win this season coming up. You have Joey Logano, who's really struggled this early portions of the season. The car has not been fast. The entire Ford organization has not been extremely fast, at least at the early portions of the season, but Logano was able to salvage some good finishes, was able to get a win earlier this year at Atlanta, outdueling his former teammate Brad Keselowski. So Joey Logano got the win. He's in the playoffs. Been a bit of a rough season speed-wise, but he's been getting the results, which is impressive, and that's all that matters, is where you finish at the end of the day. Tyler Riddick had a good week in the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, was able to get that win. Still slacking a little bit. I would expect him to get him. Wouldn't be surprised to see him get multiple wins this season, but he definitely hasn't had the speed that I thought he would have, especially at Sonoma, which we kind of consider him maybe one of the best road course racers in the Cup Series right now. Wasn't very competitive, really wasn't competitive at all last weekend at Sonoma. So I want to watch him going into some of the road course races coming up and some of the oval races coming up, because Tyler Reddick, another one of those drivers just trying to get over that hump and turn it into a multiple win season. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., your Daytona 500 winner, that was a really good win for him, but he's been very consistent. He would be in the playoffs right now, even if he didn't have that win, been running in the top 10 sums. Had some bad luck. He had a really good run going a few weeks ago at St. Louis. I think a brake rotor exploded on him. So Ricky Stenhouse Jr. having a much better season than we've seen in the past. Definitely a career season for him. With the Daytona 500 win, that's huge. That's helped out teams in the past. It's obviously helping out the 47 car this year. He's been running consistently in the top 15, top 10 very, very much this season. So definitely exciting to see what he can do. But let's take a look closer at the playoff cut line itself. You have Ross Chastain, 173 points in. Unless something entirely insane happens, Ross Chastain should make the playoffs. Kevin Harvick as well, who's having a really good season in his final years. Probably one of the most consistent Fords. Definitely the most consistent Stewart-Haas racing Ford, as they've really struggled this season. The other three drivers have. You have Chris Buescher, Brad Keselowski, teammates. They've been fast all year long as well. And they're a little bit closer to the cut, but they're 96 points in. I don't think they'll lose points-wise. Only concern would be if you get 3 more winners or something of that nature. But here's where it starts to get a little close. You have Bubba Wallace, 26 points above the cut line. That's a one race difference. He could lose that if he has a really bad race. Daniel Suarez, somebody below the cut line, has a really good race. That could cause problems for him. You have Alex Bowman only 3 points in, as he missed some races earlier this season due to a late model injury. So Alex Bowman definitely trying to gain on that deficit. You remember, Alex Bowman was actually leading the regular season points at one point this season earlier on in the year. Now on the cut line, only 3 points in right now. But like I've said before, with the amount of races in the racetracks we're going to this summer, you don't want to be 16th. And I don't think you really want to be 15th, but just the gap there from Brad Keselowski to Bubba Wallace is so big, I don't think anybody's going to be able to catch up to him. So you want to be 15th right now, because when we go to some of these races like Daytona to end out the regular season, these road course races coming up, the Chicago Street Race, we don't know who's going to win those. If somebody below the cut line wins, like a Chase Elliott, like a Austin Dillon, a Eric Almirola going to New Hampshire, one of his best racetracks, or a AJ Allmendinger at a road course, that moves that cut line up one position, which could knock out somebody like Alex Bowman or Bubba Wallace. So definitely want to keep that eye out for 15th as well, which is right now a 23-point difference, obviously in favor of Bubba Wallace. Want to continue to watch that. Daniel Suarez had a rough couple of weeks, really had a bad week last week in Sonoma. You have Ty Gibbs, who I think is having a somewhat impressive rookie season. You don't see any of the other rookies up there. You don't see Noah Gragson anywhere in this playoff hunt. He's had an absolutely terrible season. You very rarely see rookies, outside of maybe Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, have very successful seasons. Ty Gibbs, it's not incredibly successful, but I think he's taken what he's got, and he's quietly doing a very good job at running consistently. Had a couple of bad breaks, ran out of gas at Talladega, got caught up in a wreck at the Coke 600 when he was running the top 10 all day. So definitely a couple of bad breaks for Ty Gibbs, but still only 11 points out. He can definitely, if he doesn't make it in on a win, can definitely point his way in to the NASCAR playoffs this season. You have Michael McDowell having another really good year, trying to expand on their decent year last year. He's 14 points out the cut line right now. McDowell has made some impressive driving moves, saving the race car when it looked like it was wrecked, and taking that car and maybe running it a little bit better than it should be. And I think that's something that with Michael McDowell and his experience, he's been able to do this season. 14 points below the cut. Another one of those drivers has a couple of good weeks, could point his way into the NASCAR playoffs if it's not on a win. AJ Allmendinger, 33 points out. He's had a really rough season at the oval racetracks this year. Got caught up in a couple of wrecks, but when we go to these road courses, he's going to be a threat. With all the stage points at road courses, potentially going for a win at a road course, I'm not counting AJ Allmendinger out at all in these NASCAR playoffs. If he can go to a Watkins Glen, Chicago Street Course, Indy Road Course, all these road course races coming up in the summer portion of the schedule, AJ Allmendinger is a threat to win those races, and he's a threat to get a lot of points and do very well and be very successful at those racetracks, because AJ Allmendinger, I think, obviously, like I said, he's got 2 wins in the Cup Series, one of those in 2014 at Watkins Glen, but really impressive was the one in 2021 at the Indianapolis Road Course. I think that's one of the most impressive wins that he's had because he was on a part-time schedule. It's very difficult, and almost never do we see a driver on a part-time schedule win a race in the Cup Series. It's very rare. It's very difficult to do. And AJ Allmendinger did it in 2021. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he was able to get another road win this season. Let's take a look at some of the drivers that are having a very unimpressive seasons right now. Obviously, you have Eric Almirola's really been slow. The entire Stewart-Haas Racing camp has not had the speed. Unloaded off the truck really slow. It's been a bad year for the Stewart-Haas Racing crew. The entire group except really Kevin Harvick. He's the only one running somewhat consistently in his final season. Eric Almirola outside the cut right now by a pretty good margin. These are drivers that are going to need to win a race, or their focus should be to win a race before the playoffs start in 10 weeks. You have Chase Elliott obviously missing out on a bunch of races at the beginning of the season after the first 2 races with a leg injury, and then he gets suspended for wrecking Denny Hamlin. It's been an up and down season for Chase Elliott, no doubt. And I think I heard Kyle Petty say this on an NBC podcast the other day. Chase Elliott right now is trying to play catch up. He has not been in the car for almost half the season this year. His team has worked with 4 different drivers this season. It's been a rough year on the 9 team all year long. They're trying to recover. They're 84 points below the cut right now. They need to be thinking win. And I think it's possible. They've been struggling, but I think it's possible that they can get a win. Never count out Chase Elliott, but I think he's going to have to win one of these races coming up. Remember, he won Atlanta last year. We have that coming up. He had a really good summer portion a year ago, but once again, like I said, playing catch-up right now for Chase Elliott. It's been a rough start to the year. Austin Dillon, Kyle Busch, his teammate, has won 3 races this season, running consistently. Austin Dillon, if he is running consistently, he gets caught up in some trouble. If he's not running consistently, well, then he's just not running consistently. He's just doing a bad job, or the team just can't click on something. 3-car has not run well, has not had a good season at all this year. He's in a must-win, minus 108 points. Austin Dillon's going to have to win a race. Remember, he won the last regular season race a year ago at Daytona, so you got to keep an eye out for that for Austin Dillon as well. So those are the drivers that have really struggled. I mentioned the schedule coming up. Let's take a look at that. These are the remaining 10 races of the regular season. You got Nashville coming up next week for a night race. That should be good. But the races where I'm looking at to see where we could get a surprise winner, or we're more likely to get a surprise winner. Obviously, any of these tracks could produce one. But take a look at the Chicago Street Course. We've never been there. We don't know what's going to happen on the streets of Chicago. Could produce a surprise winner, or a winner like AJ Allmendinger, a winner like Chase Elliott. Both of those good road course racers. We go to a track like New Hampshire, where I look at Eric Almirola, your 2021 winner. He's good at those types of racetracks. Can he find a way to find some speed and get up there and get a win? I look at a track like Indianapolis Road Course, Watkins Glen, another road course thrown in there, and then you have Daytona to finish out the regular season. If any of those races produces a surprise winner below the cut line, that moves the cut line up, and that would knock currently right now Alex Bowman out. So definitely want to take a hard look at that. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. I enjoyed talking about this. I always like talking about the playoffs, NBC portion of the schedule. You know it's the summertime, and that means that the playoff fight is starting to heat up. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Share the video if you want somebody else to see it. And of course, about Kyle Busch with his 3 wins so far in 2023. Let's get rowdy.